Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Jared Brandonwound.
Hey, everybody, it's me, Todd Novak. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. We're thrilled to death that you are listening to our show. I got Tony in the studio with me.
Yes.
Haven't had him sitting across from me in a long time. It's great.
Indeed.
We also have Jared dialing in digitally.
That's right. Brandonwound Pickups, by the way.
Yes.
Using his AOL account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dial-up modem.
Yeah, exactly.
Still have it.
We have a super duper special on the show. But Jared, why don't you ask Tony what we do on the show?
Tony Baloney, what in the heck do we do on this show?
Well, under normal circumstances, we like to talk about gear. We like to talk specifically about boutique gear, and that would be things like guitars and amps and pedals and accessories and just all the good stuff. And what's a little different this week is we're going to have one of our very special 101s.
We're going to have a 101 today.
And you know what makes it even more special?
What's that?
It's a subject that Jared knows, loves, and deals with every day.
Fuzz pedals.
Right.
Fuzz Ricious pedals. No, it's our Pickups 201.
Yeah, something like that. 105. I'm not really sure. But this is different because it is a Q&A. So we've been asking our fantastic audience to send us questions regarding pickups, all things pickups related. So this isn't going to be let's sit back and let Jared tell us all about pickups, but we are going to be peppering him with questions that he's going to answer the best he possibly can. And who knows, maybe we'll stump him.
And then after we pepper him, can we salt him?
Damn it.
I'm kind of old. It would be tough.
Yeah.
A lot of fat, though.
Maybe a little MSG would help.
Yeah, a lot. So, ladies and gentlemen, we need to just thank a few people real quick. That's right. We need to thank Rode Mics for providing the Rodecaster Pro, this delicious module sitting in front of us.
I have missed this module.
Yes. And actually, they just sent a new firmware update because that's how they are. They're like, we have a fantastic product, and you know what's going to make it even more fantastic?
A Guitar Knobs button.
That would be amazing if we continue to work to make it better, and that's what they do, and I love that. And we also have the Procaster mics, which Tony's back on board.
My articulating arm.
Yes.
I love my articulating arm.
It missed you, Tony Baloney.
I know.
Yes. So thank you very much for that. And also, I did want to share out, we get some fantastic letters and blurbs and mails and notes and stuff from people. This one in particular that I wanted to share, I think it applies to us, but it also, I think, probably applies to quite a few people. So I just wanted to share this. It's a little, well, I'll just go ahead and read it, okay? All right. This one is from one of our favorite friends of the show, James Pegler. He is the electronics/CPA guy, control panel assembly at Gibson. Basically, he makes the wiring harnesses for most of the guitars at Gibson.
Nice.
Sorry, this is in regards to the Magini Guitars episode 212.
212.
And he says, hey guys, I was listening to the latest episode of the Guitar Knobs at work, which, thank you. That's fantastic. I love that you do that. Please tell all of Gibson that you do that. I had something of an issue with something that you were all talking about. You were talking about the Epiphone Sheraton and that it needed rewiring. This led to a discussion about quick connect or plug and play, as Gibson calls them.
I remember that discussion.
Yeah. Tony said, and then Jared acknowledged that they preferred the, quote, the way Gibson used to do it, end quote. I believe that Jared said direct or point to point or something like that. Yes, Gibson and Epiphone both use quick connects and circuit boards in certain models. However, though they are annoying to purists and do-it-yourselfers, the PCB quick connect models do not have any diminished sound quality, or they wouldn't do it. The vast majority of models that are made at the factory are wired direct, point to point, by yours truly, James Pegler.
Yeah.
Day in and day out. I can assure you, personally, that they are wired by hand by a small team of actual people. The past holds a legendary status, and well-played vintage guitar with a pedigree of lore is always the standard that people hold their mind and compare everything to. I understand the loss of trust by the public and the consumer that it is very hard to earn back. This company has been through some rough years. I can say without a doubt that Gibson has worked very hard in the last couple of years to return the focus to quality and building guitars that are closer to what they are historically known for.
I would agree.
They really have. They really have. So.
I am sure that Gibson does not need me to be an apologist for them. I just hope that the guitar community can eventually move forward with us and forgive the past issues at some point. Believe me when I say that Gibson is a very different company than it was even just a few years ago. I also say with absolute certainty, as I am one of the few that perform this work every day, that Gibson still does wire many guitar models direct point to point. I know that Jared and Tony didn't really mean to insult. This one hit home, though, because it directly seemed pointed at what I happen to do every single day. I just wanted to assure you all the majority of the Gibson models being created at the factory are in fact hand-wired by me and my team. That said, the building up of trust is not easy, but this company is doing everything it can to gain back that trust. Unfortunately, the public has been so focused on the past failings of the brand that they want to fail to recognize the changes and efforts to fix what is wrong in the past. I love this show, and I really like and respect you guys. I'm not really mad or anything. I just think that if your favorite podcast was making comments that minimize the work that you do, it would be a bummer to you. If someone said that Tony didn't really make the pick guards the right way anymore, I'm sure he wouldn't take it on the chin.
Damn you!
You are correct. And he says, thanks, man. Best to you all. James Pegler. Still a fan of the show and look forward to new episodes weekly.
Well, James, that was great. And thank you for clarifying that. As you mentioned, there have been some disappointments, but I would have to say the last NAMM show that people were able to attend, the Gibson rollout was impressive, and it definitely showed that Gibson was heading back into the right direction. I totally understand why some models have PCBs, especially the Epiphone line. But it's almost as if like if you consider an amplifier, there are purists that say no, it has to be point to point wiring, and the minute you put a PCB in an amplifier, it changes everything. And I mean, in a guitar circuit, obviously, it's not as critical. But I think that's. I'm super glad that Gibson is continuing. On most of their models. I think the coronet that I just bought is wired that way. There's not a PCB in that. So maybe on some of that line, maybe they're trying to correct some of the things. But thank you for writing, because that's and yes, if somebody would we didn't mean to attack Gibson on that, but if somebody would attack Pick Guardian or Jared's Pickups on a podcast and you listen to it, it's right. Yeah, I totally get it. So
it's really hard not to talk about what's been done in the past. If it's brought up, or if somebody calls me and says, "Hey, I want a new whatever because this is." Different, or quick connect and all that kind of thing, or PCB board inside.
Yeah.
So, but he's absolutely right. There's a fellow by the name of Matt Kaler, and he he's research and development there, and he's worked really hard in the past 5 years to change several things. So yeah, I'm sorry I joined Tony's bagwagon, and it's all his fault.
Thanks, Jared.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've really tried, and actually, I don't know if we've tried. We've just naturally been like, hey, we're not here to crap on anybody.
Right.
It's not about that at all. We're simply just acknowledging that, like, Jared's used to, he works with all classic, mostly classic and vintage guitars. So that's the kind of stuff that he's used to. But I do really appreciate, above all else, that we have listeners who know that by sending us a heartfelt email, or just like, hey, I'm going to hold up the mirror and, take a look at this for you guys, that it's not going to be met with, adversity and, animosity and stuff. It's like,
malice,
we're all part of the same guitar community, and we should be able to have an open conversation.
Know everything, so thank you for the correction.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, James, for sending that. That took a lot of thought, and we appreciate it. All right. Gentlemen, what's going on in music world this week? Tanya.
Why?
No, that's Nancy.
That's Nancy. So, this week, among other things, I was perusing the new Vintage Guitar magazine that just came out. This is the one with Jay Mascis on the cover, who has a really incredible collection of guitars that they outline in this. I mean, there's some really cool stuff. His Jazz Masters and a bunch of other guitars too. But what really, really caught my eye, and it really made me think about how people like myself and others in the vintage world are sometimes quick to jump to conclusions about something. In this case, this is an article about two black Les Paul Juniors. One was a 59, one was a 60. And there are no records of Gibson producing black Les Paul Juniors, although there are some rumors about that there was a music store special ordered a special run of them. But these are the only two that have ever appeared. And I think to someone who is used to looking at vintage gear, you almost immediately jump to the conclusion that, well, it's either a refin or it's a copy or whatever. But
and let's be clear, that's a double cut. That's a junior double cut.
Yeah,
which is maybe the best guitar.
It's a cool guitar.
I love that guitar.
But these both belong to Dave Hinson from Killer Vintage in St. Louis, and it's a really cool. The story itself is really good. How he came about the first one, and he was a little skeptical at first, but he took it to other experts, and they agree that this is an original factory finish. And then when the second one appeared, it was, it's starting a pattern. So there may be more of them out there, but there might be some people that think they are refins.
I might have one.
Well, you have a much later model.
I might have one in the future. That I make look like that.
Well, you could do that. That. But
they're amazing. Tortoiseshell pickguards. Yeah, beat up black. Oh my gosh.
And the tortoise guard looks weird on a black finish.
I think it looks amazing.
Okay, he thinks it looks amazing. So the 59 is pretty rough. It's beat up around the edges. The 60, which is the second one that he got, is much cleaner, but has had a headstock break that was fixed a long time ago. But fortunately, they didn't go over the finish. So I'm sure that these things have been black lighted and everything else under the sun. And most of the experts, probably all of the experts that he showed them to, agree that it is indeed a factory finish and maybe a special order or something like that. But the records from that era are a little sketchy or non-existent in many cases. So But anyhow, it was a reminder to me to keep an open mind about things, especially on vintage guitars, and not immediately say, that's a reef-in. It's not worth anything.
Mm-hmm.
There you have it.
I'm sure those are probably maybe the most expensive ones now.
They may very well be.
So, Tony, can you tell us what a 59 double cut junior goes for?
I mean, the TV yellow ones right now, I mean, that the majority of those are TV yellow.
Yeah.
Gosh, I haven't looked in a while, but I'm going to say they're probably in the 10 to 25 range.
Wow. Outstanding. And just in case we've got new listeners who don't know what this is, and we don't have to go on and on about it, could you just explain what TV yellow is?
So TV yellow is a shade that Gibson developed so that the guitar would really pop on black and white television shows
and not blow out.
For instance, if you had back in the early days of television, if you had a white guitar, it would just literally blast through. I mean, it was
you couldn't see anything around it.
Yeah, it would just reflect out the light. The TV yellow was kind of I guess you would call it a limed mahogany finish at the time. So it was a yellowish finish, but it didn't reflect quite as much as white. So on TV, it looked
actually white.
Yeah,
but not blown out.
Yeah.
So that's why they call it TV yellow, everybody. In case you didn't know.
There you have it.
Anyways. Let's see. Jared, how about yourself?
Nah, I didn't do nothing. I'm just kidding. No, I went to the first guitar show I went to since last year.
This is a really kind of big, informative, like lots of awesome stuff we're talking about episode, by the way. I know, knowing how this is going to go, this is going to be good. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, the Indiana Guitar Show, this fellow was hell-bent on having it, and he actually did a really good job. He made it a 3-day event when it was, well, actually a 2-day public, but he made a three-day dealer event. The Friday night was when dealers can go in and just kind of deal amongst each other, which is a lot. I mean, that always happens. There's a lot of dealing going on between dealers throughout the whole show.
Nice.
This fella who runs that show, he does a really good job advertising, and he puts on a very, very good show. He's really strict about how it's run. He's got a nice staff. I mean, he really puts his heart and soul in it.
COVID safe and all that stuff.
Very cool. Yeah. Yeah. Indiana.
Pretty much. To the degree that he could within Indiana.
Exactly. I think he's I don't even know what he is, but I don't want to say anything that's not true, but he did say, because the governor said that masks were optional. So
in Indiana.
Yeah. So in that big, huge building, people were allowed to not wear their masks.
Big building.
Very huge.
It's a fairground.
I chose to wear mine just to be safe about it. I did have my first vax, and about to have my second within days. But anyway, I just wore it just
courtesy.
Just courtesy. Some people did. I would say 20% of the people didn't, but I didn't feel. I mean, they didn't come up and tell me a secret in my ear, so I was pretty safe.
Especially because that's the worst place that you can get COVID is in your ear.
Well, especially if they're telling you a secret, they're real close. Or kissing on the cheek or whatever. Yeah. None of that going on.
All right.
So anyway, the show was really great. There's plenty of people. I actually surprisingly did very, very well out there. So I was happy I went. And I felt safe. I felt good. And
what'd you do at the show?
It was a really good program. What's that?
What did you do at the show?
Oh, the one thing.
One thing.
Yeah. So there was a fella named Chris Lester, and he's bought stuff for me before. Super, super nice guy. and he had a real Klon Centaur overdrive pedal sitting on his table. I'm
Which
like,
kind?
It's the silver non-horsey, the more affordable one. So I said, "Oh, cool," and he had a price on it, and I'm like, well. So it festered in my brain for a while, and I went to deal. He's like, "Well, that's just the price, but yeah, I'll probably deal on it. I'll take a good offer." And when it came time for me to actually buy the thing from him, the pedal, he couldn't come off that price. He really didn't want to sell the pedal. I think he brought it just to be cool and just to show people that he has one, which is cool. People appreciate seeing one live in person, so I don't fault him for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad he did because it's mine now. I bought it from him.
So you bought it.
Yeah, I now own an original Klon.
That's awesome.
Non-horsey silver. And can you believe it? I have not plugged it in yet.
What?
I haven't. I was
that
told
was a couple of days ago.
I know. I just haven't. I've been trying to catch up with work and catch up with orders. I don't feel right playing around unless, I'm caught up with work, but caught up with orders. It's not fair to my customers. No, that's not really why.
He couldn't find a 9-volt battery.
Right. You got to have a battery for it. A lot of people say,
I got to go to the store.
I got to go to the store. You got to buy the thing, and you want to get a good quality one.
No,
blah, blah, blah.
you don't. You want one of the old non-alkaline batteries if you can find them. The old Rayovacs.
Okay. Really?
Yes.
Why?
They sound better.
Okay.
Oh, there's some mythical magic going on.
So, like an old electro harmonics battery with mic on it.
It was probably made in the 90s or the early 2000s, right? So why wouldn't you just buy a battery that's to those specs?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so 9-volt battery. So you got a horsey.
Not.
I mean, a non-horsey. You got a non-horsey.
Yeah. But all that stuff super matters, right?
Yeah, it does. Is it gooped on the back?
Yeah.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all gooped.
It's gooped. You cannot steal the...
And you got it verified and all that business?
Yeah, Jesse Amoroso and Andy Harrison. Okay. They both gave me the nod, so...
I guess that'll do it. Well, right on, man. That's very cool.
Yeah.
You got a Klon. And the best thing about that is we get to play it. Whee!
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. That's a great investment, and you did get a pretty killer price on that.
Very super killer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully the prices stay high on those because then it won't be. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they will. So
what about you, old pal?
Thank you.
Hey, you're stepping on my toes.
I'm very excited about this one. So I had my big dumb birthday thing, and I decided, you know what I wanted to do on my birthday? Legitimately, I said, after the other stuff that's going on in my house, I'm like, I just want to go have lunch with Tony and Jared. That's all I wanted to do. So we met up for lunch and had some good times. I brought those guys a couple things to check out.
And you got in the mail. What kind of magazines did you get?
I got a couple magazines that were made in my birth year. In fact, one on my birth date, which was really cool. And so Tony decided, he's like, I'm going to go take the stuff over back to the car. And I was sitting there talking to Jared. And next thing I turned around and there's a guitar case. And I was like,
that's right.
I just about lost my lunch. I was just like really, really surprised and very, very excited, not knowing what was inside. And so I started to unzip the case and I looked down and I'm hopefully I'm pretty sure my face registered. Like my jaw dropped and my eyes turned into saucers.
You said the F word.
Did I? I probably did.
You were surprised and happy.
I was surprised and happy. And I looked down and I saw red and I saw white and I saw blue stripes, which can only mean the Union Jack.
Well.
And yes. Now, I immediately was like, my brain said Epiphone, Sheraton, Noel Gallagher, the whole 9 yards.
Yes.
And which, that's actually a relatively rare guitar. There's not a ton of them out there.
No, they actually made a rerun of not the signature models, but a year or two ago, maybe 3 years, they put out a Union Jack.
Yeah.
Again.
But not the, So anyways, and Drew has one of those, Drew Foppy.
Yep.
And we're actually at the show that he got it signed by Noel.
Yes.
Which is super cool. Whatever, Drew.
I'll sign yours.
Yeah. So anyways, I immediately was like, what? And they're like, now hang on a second. We likes you. We don't like you that much.
That's right.
And I did not, honestly, I didn't even care. I didn't care if it had been run over by a truck. I was just thrilled to death that my buddies got me this guitar on my birthday. That is, I love the provenance of that whole idea and everything.
Yeah.
So Tony,
yes,
tell them.
So the story behind it.
It's got a good story.
It does have a good story. So this was a Chibson, as we like to call them, Chinese made, and it was supposed to be a different model, and then it got lost for like 3 or 4 months. And then suddenly it just showed up at the.
You ordered a completely different
different model,
like,
but with
let's
a
say
Union
it was
Jack.
like just a totally different style model altogether.
Different style, semi-hollow guitar.
An Iceman. No, I'm just kidding.
I do like an Iceman.
Yeah, I mean.
But so this thing just out of the blue shows up, and of course it's the wrong guitar.
Right.
And but I sat there and I said, well, who would appreciate like a 335 style guitar that has a Union Jack on it and
with a Bigsby?
This one is sort of a Bigsby.
It's an upside down.
It's an upside down Bigsby.
It's like a left-handed Bigsby.
It's exactly what it is. But anyhow, I gave Jared a call and I said, Jared, what would you think about if we try to take this thing and improve it a lot? Because the pickups that were in it were just nasty and had a wrong pick guard, and there were just a lot of things wrong with it. So what we came up with is Jared put in some of his PAF style pickups in the guitar, which were a vast improvement. I think Zach wired up the guitar using nice pots and a switch and all that stuff, and then,
supplied by you, yeah.
Yeah, well,
we use the wiring.
A really nice switch. I mean, I know it's like weird to say like that switch is really nice. Legitimately, it is a highly mechanical. Like it I had to make it work.
Zach's wiring is impeccable too. He's really good at those holly body style guitars.
Those, and if anyone has ever tried to rewire a hollow body,
it's not easy.
It's
guys.
not easy. There are
which
some
led
tricks.
us to the discussion that we had before.
Yes. we won't go over that again.
Right.
But and then I made a special kind of an Epiphone shaped pick guard out of like a what is it? A frosted?
It's frosted material. Frosted on one side,
so you could still see all of the Union Jack design.
Yeah.
So anyhow, it turned out much nicer than it should have. But we want.
Well, I legitimately crapped my pants when I saw it. Like I couldn't. I was just so thrilled, and I love it. I absolutely love it, and it looks beautiful.
Yes.
Sitting, I don't care where it's from. I don't care how messed up it is or nothing. It's super fun, and I absolutely love it.
Well, good. Well, we were happy. It was something we wanted to do because it was a special.
I'm just glad that you didn't throw it away.
No, I would never throw that away.
You work pretty darn hard, and Tony and I just get on here and yak away. But you do use, you work real hard, and I really enjoyed helping out with that project too, and thought it was pretty special for what, a 30th birthday party?
Yeah, something
30,
like that.
35th.
32.
No, it's 34th.
Right.
Anyways, so yes, that was awesome. Thank you both. I will absolutely cherish that forever. I love that guitar.
Good. We were happy to do it.
Let's see here. Ooh, doggies, we got some good times coming up. Yeah, with the Pickups
right.
101. Jared, do you have a jingle for this?
Pickup 101. Yeah.
Think of the same guy as doing all these jingles.
I think so. They're sounding vaguely familiar.
Or one more. Pickup 101.
I don't know which one I like less.
One more, Jared.
Pickup 101.
That's the one. All right.
Third time's a charm.
We've got a spreadsheet. We made a special spreadsheet out of this, and we have a whole bunch of questions, and we are going to do our best to answer them all for you. You guys sent in some really nice, very thoughtful, inquisitive pieces of questionnaire-ness.
Yes.
So let's do it.
Should the first question be, which is a better pickup, a Ford or a Chevy?
Oh, boy.
Jared?
I like them both.
Terrible. All right. Now, we've got some repeat folks in here. Some people sent in quite a few questions. And
Uncle Gary did.
Yeah, boy, Gary, you really came in hitting hard here.
Yeah.
So
our man James Pegler did too.
That's true. Should we bounce around and should we go by category?
That's up to you, Todd. I'm ready to answer.
Feel like category, so it doesn't feel like we're retreading things.
Okay.
We're going to start first. Did you just see it change?
Yes, I did. It works. I'll refresh it. There we go.
All right. We're going to go in
Features.
opposite order. We're going to go by wines. Let's start there.
So
we've got a couple on wines. Question number 1. Why do more or less, this is from our pal Gear Ant. Why do more or less wines determine the sound of the pickup? At what point is too many wines overkill?
That's an awesome question. And there are 3 major things about a pickup that determine its sound. And one of the most common misperceptions is just windings determine the sound. When do less or more? It all depends on the shape of the pickup and the strength of the magnet. For example, if you have all Nico 2 are generally weaker magnets. If you have way too many winds on that, you're going to get a dark, mushy sound with hardly any brights. It's going to be kind of like you have the volume rolled back all the way and there's no brights and it's all kind of an EQ system. Mm-hmm. So back to the 3 main parts of the pickup. The way the pickup's shaped, the single coil is a lot brighter than a humbucker because it's skinnier. Mm-hmm. And then you have the magnetic strength, which powers the flux field that the strings interrupt. And then you have the windings. And those 3 are it's like a 3-band EQ. So, and I'll probably come back to that a few times with many of these questions. So yeah, if it depends on the strength of the magnet.
So aside from the strength of the magnet, generally speaking, the more winds, the darker and you begin to lose clarity.
Yeah, you begin to lose clarity if you don't have enough magnetism to match that output.
Okay.
The output resistance, and that's when you have that's when you have several winds, is when that raises.
Several winds?
Very
several?
Don't make me say 3 severals. I mean, that 3 severals would be a Gibson Ebo. I mean, that thing, those read 36K.
What?
Yes, a lot of people get these Ebo pickups and they want to read it with a meter, and they don't realize they have to turn it to 200K instead of 20K, or else it'll just show up dead. So when you put it on 200K on your meter and you read that EBO, it's like 36K. It's a lot of windings.
That's a lot of math.
Yes, it is. And they're mudbuckers, by the way.
And they have massive magnets, right?
No. They have 2 bar magnets on each. Well, the early ones had a regular humbucker, but they were turned up like a blade on each side of the pickup.
Okay.
And then the later ones in the 70s, when Bill Lawrence was in charge there, he said, let's put ceramic in, and which is probably the right thing to do. But and another funny thing is actually moved it down to the right in the middle of the pickup area instead of the neck or the bridge. They just moved that mudbucker right in the center.
Okay.
Here we go down the rabbit holes already.
Sir.
I love it, baby.
I'm going to pull you back. So does that mean that the fewer winds, your guitar is going to sound better? This is a setup.
Brighter.
And
it depends how much magnetism you have. So if like a Charlie Christian pickup, that's 3K maybe. But you have but back then, the Alnico magnets were still kind of in development, or they were still trying to improve that the alloys or whatnot. So, and that's just a different working pickup, but it went into an acoustic guitar. So an active pick, and we'll get into active.
Holy moly.
It'll make more sense. Yeah.
We need to put one of them electronic fences up.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Wines question number 2. Oh, by the way, Gear Ant happens to be our friend Elad Mezrahi. And I'm sure I butchered that. This one's from John Williams from Grizzly Bay.
My man.
Not the town, but on Instagram. Look up Grizzly Bay. He makes all kinds of really cool stuff. All right. He says, yo, Jared, I just ordered a set of fresh black-covered dog ear P90s for you for my little casino project. Stoked. In doing a little research, I find that some people like to have the neck pickup reverse wound, giving it a bit of a humbucking effect when both pickups are on. Is there a disadvantage to this?
No, there is not. There is an advantage, but the only advantage you're going to hear will be when the toggle switch is in the middle position. When and this is, think of a Strat, Todd's favorite guitar, that has a 5-way switch. When you have the middle and bridge or middle and neck together, and the middle is reverse wound at a reverse polarity as the other two, that's how a humbucker is, that's how a humbucker works. So you have that same kind of circuit going on with the magnetic pole, one being south, one being north, and it creates a buck for the hum. It creates a noiseless thing. It gets rid of the single cycle hum. So there's no disadvantage at all. When you have it selected to the neck pickup only, and it's reverse round, reverse polarity, you will not hear a tone difference than if it were the other way around. If it were forward and, whatever. So there's absolutely no tone difference. It's the advantage of being noiseless in the middle. That's it.
Okay.
And again, you will have purists that, say, well, in the 50s, Gibson didn't do reverse wind, reverse polarity, so we want it to sound just like that. So
exactly.
But I agree with Jared. I think the advantages are there. And, if
there's no disadvantage.
If you don't spend a lot of time in the middle position, or if you do and want hum canceling, it's a great option.
I guess I know to make it reverse then.
Yep. All right. This next one is also from John Williams. Yep. This is regarding upgrades. Are there any upgrades in the other electronics you would suggest? So this is the wiring harness, etc. That you would suggest to get the most from your P90s, as I plan to replace them. particularly pot or cap values, brands, models, etc.
Tony Baloney is just as versed as this as I am, so I'll take a quick break and let Tony answer.
Take a break, Jared. So, I mean, traditionally, 500K pots are what Gibson used with P90s. The value of the cap can vary. I typically use
cap being
the capacitor for the tone control. Yep. And I typically use 0.022 for the value
of the cap.
Of the cap. And that, to me, works best with almost every pickup that I use with. So almost every install I use that. If you find for some reason that the P90s might be too bright, which is not likely, but if you do, you can change the value down to 250K instead of 500K.
On the pot,
sorry. And then...
That's what I'm here for.
And then opposingly, if you find that they're too dark, you can go up to a 1 meg pot.
Sure.
But I don't recommend that.
That's really pushing it, Tony.
Yeah.
There's pots in between too. There's 300K pots, and you can find all sorts of stuff out there.
Yeah, but I think the safe values for a P90 would be 500K pots and either a 0.022 or
now what can you guys kind of share? Like, those are just numbers to many people. Mm-hmm. Some people are like, I totally understand all of this. Mm-hmm. If you don't understand it, what is a 500 pot giving you that a 250K won't? Or vice versa.
It gives you more high end and more high mids.
500 gives you more dynamic range.
More high end.
And
high mids.
Like you said, not like I said.
So Fender traditionally used 250K pots on their single coil pickups. Gibson traditionally used 500K pots on their humbucker models.
And to get more high end so it didn't sound muddy.
So it was less muddy, yes.
Right.
They used 250K on their juniors for the tone pot as well in the 50s.
Oh, that's interesting.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yes.
So that could be, aside from actually like the volume pot for your pickup, you can
mix them. Yeah. I mean, I've done that before.
So that'd be an interesting path to go down to say what is a different value on your tone control do for you.
Yeah. I mean, that would be worth experimenting with.
Yeah. For someone else, that sounds like a lot of work for me. Alrighty, we are moving on. Great questions so far. This one, as are many, we got some fantastic questions from Gary Lesh. Yep. This is regarding types. Tips. Please share tips on how to choose the right pickup to complement a particular guitar's construction. That's a very good question. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what a construction would be. So maybe a solid body versus a hollow body or a semi-hollow body.
Mm-hmm. Or a through neck.
Or a chambered.
Mm-hmm. Well, but then
a banjo.
But then it comes down to type of wood too.
Well, let's not go down that.
Well, but no, that's important.
Okay,
let's go down that. Right.
Because on a solid body, a mahogany body is going to sound much different than ash or alder.
Yeah, aren't you glad you took my suggestion of going down this path?
I like your path.
I know.
Well, people got to know.
Okay, so
I mean, I guess what it boils down to, I mean, and I've run into this before where on some of my builds where I find that a guitar is brighter than I want it to be, or maybe it's darker than I want it to be. So it requires changing out some of the components.
Brighter versus darker, in a nutshell.
Yeah. Brighter versus darker in a nutshell. I mean, if the wood, something like ash, alder can be bright. Mahogany tends to be darker.
Bright being is bright trebly. More trebly, Tony?
Yes, trebly.
Okay. And darker would be a little bit muddier.
Bassier.
Okay.
And so, it really depends on the sound that you're going for. But a good rule of thumb is if your guitar, let's say you have a set of pickups in it currently, say you have humbuckers in it, you do have an option. If it's suddenly too dark, you could switch it over to a humbucker-sized P90 and just drop it right in. And likewise, there's some adapter plates and things that you can do. But I think it almost is. It boils down to what your ear is hearing. And I mean, a good starting point is look at what the factories put into the guitars to begin with. And then if you find that formula doesn't work for you, look at, what other replacement options there might be.
Can I ask a question compounding this problem at the moment?
Make it harder.
If you have, so we were just talking about the juniors. The juniors have dog ears, and we talked about dog ears. And just really quickly, just a dog ear. Jared, what's a dog ear?
A dog ear is when you have the tabs that you run the larger screws through on the end.
So they're not sunken. The pickup isn't sunk in the body. It's mounted on the top.
Yeah, they're for mounting. They're mounting tabs.
Okay.
So different ways to mount the pickup. Usually those are in either juniors or or
cornets. I believe that's a dog ear on the cornet.
Yep.
Yeah, or hollow body guitars.
Yeah,
sometimes
they're surface mounting guitar pickups.
So. I mean, so there's it's still a P90. And it has the same characteristics. It's just the mounting.
Do you think it has any effect without like a deep route, a deep hole in the body?
No, the pickup won't have a different effect, but the body structure will.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a fair argument. I mean, you can go either way. I mean, some people route out extra space underneath a P90.
Swimming pool route.
Some people do that too.
Yeah. I mean, so you can put whatever kind of pickups and maybe your stash of money or whatever might have in there.
Money.
All right. That's a great question, Gary. We're going to move on to another one by Gary. This is also for types. I heard Filtertron pickups were Gretsch's take on a humbucker type design. How does it work, and how does it differ from humbuckers?
Are they not wired in? Now, this is a question I'm asking Tony.
Yeah.
So this is crazy. I heard they are wired in parallel instead of series.
And that was my original understanding. However, I find that not to be the case now, especially on newer pickups, on newer Filtertrons. So to answer that question, yes, the Filtertron actually was developed before the Gibson PAF.
Beautiful. I think they were racing to get it done, weren't they?
Yeah. I mean, they were, because it was the same end game. Chet Atkins wanted something that was less noisy.
Yeah. It looks like a neck and neck finish between the two biggest pickup builders. Let's say who will find out first which pickups to go with.
I believe I touched on it on the first episode I was on, but anyway.
So I think the major difference, and Jared, you can chime in too, between a Filtertron and a Gibson humbucker is the Filtertrons tend to be very much lower output, or at least lower resistance.
Yeah.
And the Gibsons tend to be maybe twice as much, sometimes more than twice as much in terms of resistance.
Yeah, you just switched up output and resistance. Elaborate. So, Swami Tony.
So as Jared was saying earlier, the wind of the pickup, the wire around it, how much you use, determines the resistance.
Yep.
The higher the resistance, and with a higher and properly matched magnet system, it's a higher output.
That's correct.
So one of the things that people mistakenly do when it comes to pickups is they measure it, and they said, "Oh, that's 13.5. This is going to be a loud pickup." Well, that's not always the case. Or they measure when it's 4.6. Oh, this thing is not going to sound good at all. Mm-hmm. It is a balancing act, as Jared said, and you have you've got the magnets, you got the wind of the coil, and then it's the construction and shape.
So another different thing. I'm not going to try to say that is that the Filtertron is kind of in between the size of a mini humbucker and a humbucker. So it's right in between. So it's a lot lower output. So it's not going to be near as thick and juicy sounding as a standard humbucker.
Yeah, they do tend to be brighter.
And they're much brighter. But they're really great pickups. I mean, what's not to like about Filtertrons?
And there are some companies that actually make a humbucker sized Filtertron that, again, if you want to try switching some things out, it's a good option to try.
Have the Filtertron look, but in a humbucker size, it'll sound like a humbucker.
Now, I'm going to build on that just a touch. Quick difference between a Filtertron and, because that's the Gretsch brand, and a TV Jones?
None.
No difference. TV Jones basically.
Difference.
None more.
Yeah, TV Jones redoes them, and what Tony probably knows more than me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So TV Jones, Tom Jones, was originally. I mean, his whole company was based on building a better Filtertron. And in fact, Gretsch used his pickups on a lot of their upper end models. They also, I think, contracted with him to help redevelop the Dynasonic, which was the pickup that was a single coil pickup that was used in the 50s before they developed the Filtertron. So, I mean, Tom knows Gretsch stuff inside, out, sideways, backwards, forwards. And he makes a really, really good pickup. And I would say compared to modern Gretsch pickups, he's probably got better sounding pickups than what Gretsch is able to produce.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. All right, we're going to move on. Gary's got another one for tone. What tonal differences does phase reversing various pickups positions have from standard in-phase wiring? I know that sounded really weird.
What's the difference between in phase and out of phase? How's that?
That's a better way to put it.
That's a better way to put it.
In phase, you have more of a similar tone to the bridge and the neck, and it's like the perfect marriage. And they're, I don't know. And then out of phase is, for a good example, is Green is the Greenie guitar.
Yeah,
Peter
Green.
Peter Green, right. So the legend is some guy tried to fix Peter Green's neck pickup and he wound it backwards. And so that made the middle position out of phase and it sounds honky. And that's kind of one of the best words to describe it. It sounds like you're covering your nose and you're talking funny, like, hey, how's it going? That's what out of phase sounds like.
Video killed the radio star.
Yeah.
That's right. This is in phase.
This is out of phase.
That's probably the best example of an audio example I could give you. So it doesn't, to some people they can do a lot with that musically and it makes them happy. Like Peter Green made it famous. And then you have other people that are, I hate that sound. And, I don't want to use it.
Yeah, I usually discover that when I'm wiring up a Telecaster or something and I accidentally flip the leads.
Yeah.
It sounds out.
To fix that, you can isolate the ground on a single coil pickup and then you can just switch the leads there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I heard you on my wireless back in 52. Lying awake intent and tuning it on you.
The show's long enough, man. Let's go.
Okay, that's a great song. Damn, I remember the first time I started that, heard that, watched that. Ugh,
yeah,
it was a watch. It wasn't a heard.
It was a video. Yeah,
it was on MTV. Dang,
thus killing the radio star.
I know.
Back when MTV was MTV.
At least that's what I heard because I'm not that old.
No, yeah, you were still in diapers.
Ooh, man. People tell me all about those days. All right, let's hear one from Hello Sailor Effects.
Hello, Sailor.
All right, he's our buddy. This is on tone. In order of percentage, what is the most important part of the pickup to get right for the end tone?
This is easy. 33%.
Were you happy it was easy? You're like, I got this one.
Yeah. 33% is shape. 33% is the output and 33% is the magnetism.
Oh man, that's a cop
So
out.
by output, you were referring to resistance.
Now you can kind of interchange a few percents here and there between all those three, but you have to have all three right. They must all be correct, or else, it's not going to.
If you get one more right, which would that be most important to get right?
I would say
output.
I mean,
Your shape.
You can change a lot by winding or underwinding or overwinding.
I would say magnetism because
if you change the type of magnets,
Okay.
you only
More
have
so
so
than
much
the
to work
winds?
with. Yeah,
I think
it's
so.
Okay.
the magnet. Well, actually, the shape, because you cannot change a shape. Then you may as well just get a new pickup. But magnetism, you could, if it's not magnetized all the way, you could charge it, or you could degauss it, which is take away some of the power.
Oh, there's a question about that later.
That's right.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
That's a good question, though.
That was. Thank
Awesome.
you. Let's see. This one's from our pal Steve Keys, and it's also on tone. How does a pickup builder determine how to EQ a pickup, i.e. less muddy bass frequencies, chimier highs? Thank you. We kind of talked about that a little bit.
I think so.
Yeah, that's the 3 EQ
Okay.
rule. Yep.
Well, Steve, there you go. That was, listen to the first part of the
Shape, windings, and
rewind
magnetism.
about 10 minutes and we got that covered.
We love you, though, buddy.
Magnets, resistance, and shape.
Magnets, resistance, and shape.
I told
Oh,
you I'd
my.
be mentioning that a lot. So.
All right. Well, this one is, again, from our friend Gary Lesh. This is on tech specs. When is potted versus unpotted better and vice versa?
Zachary really wanted to go into this, and I'm sorry he's not here, but he debates this a lot with people, and so we're kind of on the same page with this.
Can you give a history of potting?
You know what? Honestly, I think I would say Fender would be the first people to do this.
I think you're right.
Fender used black wax back in the 50s. And then in the 60s and 70s, when they didn't have enough wax in the shop, they would just use old leftover lacquer.
So what is potting?
Potting is when you heat up wax in a pot that's hot. And it should be around 150 degrees. And then it's melted. It's like a liquid form. And then you dip the whole pickup in a basket. You don't want the pickup to touch any of the hot surface
Or
of the
your
actual.
fingers.
That's correct. And you let it sit in there for about 10 minutes. And what happens is the pickup heats up to, the same temperature and it accepts the hot wax, and the wax penetrates the windings and keeps everything nice and super tight when you pull it out. And
I accept the wax.
And
that's right, man.
Lower than 150 degrees, baby.
It helps prevent microphonics. So
microphonics, and that's the big thing here.
Okay.
When you pot a pickup, you lose all that really cool extra microphonic detail of the pickup. And one of the most microphonic pickups out there that I know of is a mini humbucker. And if you grab an old Gibson from the 70s with mini humbuckers and they are not potted, put some overdrive on that thing and you'll figure out what happens real quick. Those things really whistle. But the cool thing about it is if you can tame that and use that microphonic sound to your advantage, that is obviously an advantage. If you can control all that and you integrate all that extra going on with your sound. But when you pot a pickup, the advantage of that is, say you got a Les Paul and it's got a hot bridge pickup and you have a cover on it's not potted, you'll be at a show and you turn around or something and you face the wrong direction and you got whistling and everybody's covering their ears and then they all go out, they leave.
Yeah,
they
which
hate
is
you.
different than cool feedback.
Right.
Right.
So there's advantages and disadvantages, and usually the guys who enjoy the slight microphonic tone are the guys who do not use a lot of distortion or overdrive or anything like that.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's fair.
It's a lot of people, and there's a lot of respectable people out there that argue if potting changes the tone or not, the actual tone. And I think it has more to do with the microphonic part of that, which has a lot to do with, your tone and overall sound. So
is it safe to say that it also maybe helps prevent corrosion?
Oh, of course. Yeah, for the most part, the corrosion it protects.
Did both of you answer?
Well, I mean, if it's super, super old, I've seen potted pickups that have been potted for 30 years.
No, that's true. And as you pointed out to me, Jared, PAFs were not originally potted.
No, they were not. They were never
when you
potted.
see pickups that are, you've shown me quite a few, Jared, where it's literally oxidized, it's green, or like copper. It's like it's green.
Yeah,
the pickup is green and crusty on the inside.
Yeah.
No even potting. When I first started out, I made the mistake by using it, and I was doing a few pickups at a time. I had a tin can, and I would use soup cans, and it was thin tin. So eventually the can would rust inside of I would put it inside of a water, one of those water containers where you plug in and it heats up right away.
Yeah.
And, yep. And the tin can would, it'll get a little pinhole, and then water would mix in with the wax while it was hot.
Oh, Jared.
That's correct. And then,
that's called a
few years later, 3 or 4 years later, hey man, my pickup stopped working. I'm like, oh, no problem, I'll fix it. So I get it back. I'm like, oh, it's that stinking tin can crap that I had going on.
But that was many years ago.
That was well over.
Yes, I've seen your potting setup, and it's actually really impressive.
It's very professional.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't say that, but it's very impressive.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
just kidding. Top notch over at Jared's place. All right, we got another one here from Jason Rausch. Tech specs. Is there an optimal impedance value for a single pickup versus humbucker?
A single coil versus humbucker?
Optimal. That
single
depends.
Coil pickup. Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, that's a tough call.
That's a very subjective question. I mean, if everybody in the world were walking around and they all like this exact same tone, then you could answer this. Okay. And it would be 100% right or 100% wrong. So yeah, no, I don't think so. They're just two different things.
Okay. I think the one thing that I think everybody can agree with, and especially in the case of single coils, is it's probably better, like in the case of a Strat, to have a higher output bridge pickup
in the bridge,
a medium in the neck, and then a lower or underwound pickup in the neck position.
You have larger oscillation towards the neck of the guitar because that's where the more of the center of the string is in. So there's more oscillation, more boomy. Less output on that neck will balance the less oscillation where the bridge is.
Right. So case in point, if you've got a humbucker guitar and you happen to buy two humbuckers and you didn't know if they were, for bridge or neck, and maybe you have, that's a bad example. I'm going to retract that. I'm going to redact that.
I think what you're
sometimes
what you're
if you flip your neck pickup and you're like, oh my gosh, what is this? It's just super boomy.
And there are some people that, Peter Green was another one that had the neck pickup. Normally you put the pole piece either towards the bridge or towards the neck.
Yeah.
In his case, his pickup was flipped upside down so that the pole pieces there was a blank coil next to the neck.
Well, and to be clear, he didn't flip it upside down. It's just 180 degree difference.
turn. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I have a theory that they did that because it was out of phase, and they thought by flipping the whole pickup it would change, and it did not. It will not, because the circuitry is the same.
Yeah.
Then if they would have flipped the neck, then it would be in phase.
But you could reduce some of the boom.
The neck. I'm sorry, the magnet.
By twisting the pickup 180 degrees.
Yeah. And truth be told, whether it's a Gibson or a Fender or whatever, they always put the same value or as close value pickups as they had. So they didn't calibrate pickups by position. I think one of the real advantages with winders like Jared and others is you can order.
Yeah, he did that with mine.
Yeah. So it makes sense to put maybe an underwound pickup in the neck and an overwound pickup in the bridge.
That's exactly what I asked for, because I hate flipping up, and I don't use rhythm the neck pickup too often. But when I do, I'm just like, geez Louise, it's just so big and boomy on some guitars, not all, but.
And when Tony was referring to Gibson, he was speaking of years and years and years ago. They do
now.
They do. Yeah,
more.
they have a pretty good pickup.
Are you potting pickups over there, Jared? Or are you just falling off your stool?
I am adjusting my back.
Okay. All right. This one's from Tim Novak from Bardic Audio.
My man.
Tech specs. What part of the pickup construction makes certain pickups better for guitars and others for bass? Is there a difference at all?
That's a really good question.
Well, obviously, number of pull pieces.
Yeah.
Although,
it depends on the spread.
I will say, in the world of Rickenbackers, that when they would put toaster pickups in like the 4001s or 4003s later, that they used a guitar pickup that had 6 pull pieces in it. They didn't make a special bass 4 pull piece toaster pickup.
Yeah, the same thing with 12 strings and Gibsons. They just use a regular PAF or regular humbuckers with 6 poles for the 12 strings in the EDS 335 or EDS. Yeah, EDS. I forgot 1275.
1275s.
Oh, geez. How could I forget that?
So I guess the question is, I think pickup builders do tend to voice pickups for bass guitars differently than they do for electric guitars.
Yeah, and shape is the most different component. The shape is the most different thing, because you have to account for the wider bass string spread, and in some cases though you could use a regular pickup
and the
6
flux
string
of
pickup.
that string too, right?
There's a lot more
the
oscillation.
oscillation. Though it's much
so think
bigger.
like an Ernie Ball Stingray, like those big giant honking magnets in it.
Yeah, and that's for tone, and it's nice that it'll it puts out a larger flux field too, because those things are so huge.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Good question. All right. This is from Gary Lesh. This is on switching. I'd like to hear you guys discuss various wiring options for phase reversing, split coils and tap coil, etc. This
is more of a wiring harness question.
I think that there are plenty of ways to alter the sounds.
Oh yeah,
via coil tapping or splitting, and phase reversal. And it's relatively easy to do. The easiest way is with some mini toggles. But if you don't want to have extra holes in the pick guard or the guitar, you can also use it with push-pull potentiometers. And those are pots that have a little switch on the bottom that when you pull up on the knob, it engages one way, and push down, it engages the other way.
A really good early example of something that was kind of crazy was in the Bill Lawrence era in the 70s. Mm-hmm. I mean, the L6S. That thing had a 4-way switch, and if you looked under the hood of that guitar, it had a coil choke, so a tone choke. Mm-hmm. It had several different capacitors. and it just looked like a mouse nest under there. So there was, and I think the goal of that guitar, even though it was a humbucker, and they had ceramic magnets with very low whine, so they were around 5 to 6K. And so they were naturally bright pickups, but they went through so much circuitry that it kind of darkened the tone up. Mm-hmm. So you could switch, you can go really super bright, or you can go super dark. And that's kind of that's a really good example of what you can, and that was, 70s technology by Bill Lawrence.
But there are plenty of options when it comes to, especially humbuckers. Obviously, you can't really tap a single coil. I guess you could if you had a mid tap or something like that. But generally speaking, you want to coil.
Tapping a coil versus splitting a coil.
Essentially the same thing. It's just you're canceling out one of the coils of the pickups.
One thing that I do that's interesting that I think is fair to mention for this question would be a 6 and 2. It's what I call a 6 and 2. So you wind a humbucker. One coil is 6K and the other coil is 2K. It's a very uneven, but it still sounds great when it's all in series. It still sounds like an 8K humbucker. But when you split it, or when you tap it, you cut out the 2K and you have a strong single coil sound. There's not a huge volume drop, and you still get a good, clear, loud sound, but it sounds like a 6K
which
single
is a
coil
problem if you tap single coils. Sometimes you get a volume drop.
Yes.
I mean,
exactly.
when you tap a humbucker.
Exactly, yeah. Especially 7.5 and it goes down to a 3.7K. I mean, that's half of what a Strat reads.
So if that sounds interesting to you, give Jared a call and he'll make you a set.
Yeah, I think a really good example was that pickup that you did for my the Dan Armstrong, the Plexi guitar. If you remember, we did essentially the same kind of formula. It's a single pickup guitar that has a 3-way switch. So in the middle position, it's both coils on. In the one position, it's the neck coil, and in the other position, it's the bridge coil. And we wound the bridge coil hotter so that it sounded better. Because the closer to the neck you get.
It's a single pickup.
Yeah, it's a single pickup guitar. So that's a good option, or is something that you might consider too, especially if you have a single pickup guitar that has a humbucker in it, that has the proper wiring.
It's pretty neato. All right, let's move on. We got another one from the same chap. This is switching. One of my most versatile guitars is a Jackson Charvel Model 6, which came with Jackson single humbucker, or SSH, pickups.
While we're talking about that, what is the right way to say that? Because I always call those HSS.
I guess you're right.
No, I've heard it both ways.
It's more correct HSS.
HSS.
Let me re-say that so I don't sound like an idiot.
You're fine.
You read from the bottom up or the up to the bottom.
I mean, I have people ask it both ways.
I thought I just said it wrong.
No, but I mean, like if I see like a Fender ad, sometimes it'll say HSS Strat.
That may be the way that they particularly Fender.
But other people read it from as Jared said, from the top down.
Yeah,
if the guitar's
I don't know. That's interesting. That's a thing.
That is a thing.
Anyways, I replaced the neck pickup many years ago. But now would like to try something different and replace all three. The switching is an on-off toggle for each pickup. Which can lend itself to more switching options if I change to 3-position toggles.
Yes.
Without drilling any new holes in the body and adding another switch that I may regret in the future.
Right.
What?
That's his
I think he answered his own question.
He answered his own question. Yes, that is a very good way to the only other option that he's missing is a coil tap, which is something that he could put again on a push-pull pot.
Oh, exactly.
But it's similar.
Or a little micro switch.
Yeah, but
they're already there.
But he's already got
bass guitars.
He's already got 3 micros on there, or mini switches.
Have 6.
I'd use a push pull.
Well, I mean, a good example there is
remote control.
is the Brian May model, which has 6 slider switches.
Yeah.
Which actually they could do with just three ways. But what I would say is, if you want to change those to 3 position switches, so you would have off in the middle, and then in phase in the down position, and out of phase in the up position.
Yeah.
Any combinations of those would be, you'd get a lot of different tonal varieties.
Yeah, that's too much tone for me.
And then I would just add
I can't take that much tone.
either the volume or the tone control, put a push pull on so you can split the humbucker.
I mean, there's a fella named Tarman Kelling, and he does the most radical, crazy harnesses I've ever seen. And they're nuts. So he could, with this kind of guitar, this kind of setup, the sky is the limit. Seriously, you can do a lot of different stuff. So look up Tarman. So Gary, look up Tarman Kelling. He is on eBay, and get a hold of him and talk to him. He will hook you up, man.
Excellent. All right. That's a question that I did not understand. Here we go. This one's from our pal, Darren Gregory, longtime listener.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, Darren, he has a question on setup. Okay, we got a lot of questions about this kind of stuff. Pickup height. Maybe the most popular subject, actually. What is the optimal height? Do different pickup styles have the same optimal height? Same height all the way across neck, middle, and bridge?
So
He's
this is
very concerned with pickup height and wants his questions answered.
That's right. So a lot of techs, I believe, they start with what the pickup manufacturer or guitar manufacturer suggests. But if you're putting in aftermarket stuff, I get away with not worrying about all that. And usually people that are changing out their pickups, they either take it to a luthier tech person that already knows how to do all that kind of thing, and they use their ears to do that once it's in a general spot. But the reason you want to do this, you want the optimal spot that because you have the magnetic flux that we talked about that is powered by the magnets. That's magnetic field. And it creates a field above the pickup, and you want the strings to interrupt that field. And if the pickup's too high, it's going to sound, I don't know. To be honest, I've never put it so high that it's going to, the string will rattle on the pickup. You don't want that.
Well, it is a magnetic draw too. Right?
Yeah, and it'll
stop
if it's a really strong one,
right?
Right, it'll affect that. It won't sound right. It'll just sound like whatever. And if it's too low, the magnetic flux field will be weak, and it'll sound quiet because it's not close enough to the string. It's not close enough. So
on that note, actually, there's some magnet questions. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. I'm gonna make a note.
I think one thing to consider is how strong the pickup is, because if you put a strong pickup too close to the strings, it will actually choke the strings.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Vibrating.
So yeah.
So I mean, I think most people.
I don't know if you've been listening to the podcast, Tony, but
is there a podcast going on? No, I think a good starting point, I think, is about 1/8 of an inch off the strings. Is that about right, Jared?
I think so. 1/8.
And then, and I think it is smart to keep the bridge.
Also, how hard you play, too.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's so many things that go into that. But
do you have loose strings? Do you have
like a wheelie, like barely picking on the string? Yeah. Then.
But I think if you go, I think the bridge pickup should be higher or closer to the strings, and the neck pickup should be
there's less
lower.
flux.
Yeah, there's less movement.
Yeah,
less oscillation.
Yeah, less movement in the bridge, less and more oscillation in the neck. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Great question, Darren Gregory. All right. Here's another one from GL. That's what we're just going to call him now. Setup. What is the best way to adjust your pickup height so that the magnets are not pulling on your strings out of tune and still have hot pickup for lead overdrive?
I don't know. Start lower and work your way up until you find the optimal sound. And if it's still pulling down your strings, and if you can actually prove that, and it just doesn't sound right, then you went too high. I mean, and
adjusting the pickup. Just so we're clear, you do that usually by the 2 screws on either side of the pickup,
or 3.
Yep,
or 3,
or 3, yes. or 4 in a wide range situation.
4.
So. Yeah.
But yeah, that gets a little.
It's a touch and go kind of thing. It's an Yep.
So that gets a little tricky on like a old style Telecaster that has the screws going into the body, where you have to actually take the pick guard off to make the adjustments.
Yeah.
Yay!
So. All right, here we go. John Williams from Grizzly Bay. Setup. Some seem to like pickups close to the strings, and others insist on them being very low.
A lot of people think there's a theory about it'll resonate longer if there's less magnetic pull.
That's what we were kind of just slightly touching on.
So that's why.
Well, I think you.
So
can
it's the quest for sustain.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I think a really good comparison. I think an episode or 2 ago, we had talked about an Esquire versus a Tele, and because the Esquire doesn't have a neck pickup,
true.
They tend to sustain a little bit longer. Same thing on, like we were talking about Les Paul Juniors earlier. A single pickup guitar has less potential magnetic interference or to the strings to keep them from vibrating. That's just a given.
Okay. All righty. Let's move on to another one from GL, pickup types. These next couple questions are about pickup types. GL asks, can you guys discuss so-called noiseless pickups and lace sensors?
Absolutely. So the lace sensor is not a noiseless pickup.
And that's an actual brand name.
Yes. I believe it's Jeff Lace or John Lace. I forgot. Forgive me, Lace. But lace sensors are a terrific design, and they were used in the late 80s, early 90s. Stratocaster, Strat. What were they called? Oh, I was just talking about it a little earlier.
Deluxes or Strat?
Strat Plus.
Strat Plus, yeah.
Yeah, so the Strat Plus model with the nut lock and all that extra goodie stuff on there. And I believe they also used those in a Eric Clapton model.
Yeah.
At one time. And those have a very teeny tiny little small coil, and the coil is surrounded with brass, and it's got a large ceramic magnet that's actually underneath the coil. So it actually has a kind of a different flux field going on. But I guess it's just quieter that way, the way they engineered that. And I myself have never really gotten any more deeper than that. But the noiseless pickup is basically 2 coils that work like a humbucker, but it's just in a stacked position, or in some cases a side by side. Take for instance a precision bass. You have 2 small coils, 2 little rectangular coils, and they're kind of staggered, and they both have the 4, like on a 4-string, they have the 4 magnets in each. Each string gets 2 magnets. One pickup is wound one way, and the other pickup or coil is wound the other. So you have that same noiseless. So that's a noiseless design as well. Also, Mustangs and Duosonics had the same thing going on. But that's only if you had both pickups on. So it's, that's what makes it noiseless, is basically when you have 2 coils that are, canceling out that hum,
right?
The single cycle hum.
So that comes specifically, for those who don't know, this is mostly for single coil pickups, right? So what's
But it's not.
Well, I mean, I'm talking specifically about the lace sensor.
Oh yeah.
What I find interesting about that is, if you look at like the artist lists on the lace page, it is overwhelmingly like really heavy music, which is very interesting. I think a lot of heavy and a lot of very proggy kind of, like math rock and heavy like doomy stuff. And
the early stuff that Lace put out was vintage output. So I think maybe they had a gold set, which all 3 pickups were gold and they were all vintage. And I believe the red, white, and blue had a hotter bridge in middle. And so they were, just had different dynamics.
Yeah.
But other than that,
I just wonder what the significance is with like so many artists doing like really high output, really sort of heavy stuff. What the connection there is with the lace sensor.
I think that it even isn't even so much the lace sensors. They're the EMG. A lot of really heavy players are used in EMG pickup.
Yeah, I mean classic.
We'll
like
get into that.
Kurt Hammett,
and those have a different frequency profile and noise profile.
Okay, good question there, Mr. Man. Let's see here. Explain, what are gold foils? Where does the name come from? I guess gold foil is used in their construction, ? What makes them sought after? Where can you find them? Some old guitars, some newer guitars? I mean, I know that's a lot of the same. It's just explain about it.
Yeah, James Pegler kind of asked the same thing.
Yes, James Pegler. In gold foil pickups, are the foil, quote, covers purely aesthetic, or does it affect the sound?
So to answer both at the same time, the gold foil pickups are the ones that you see on the old Tyscos and the Harmonies. D. Armand made several of those. And the foil you see is the nice gold foil that is mostly an aesthetic.
Stamped. It's like usually like stamped gold foil, right?
Well, not there so is some metallic properties in that material. So I guess if you put it up to some sort of computer program where you can see sound waves and you A and B to non-gold foil. You took the foil off, tested it, you put the foil back on, you might see a slight difference in a sound wave, but as far as hearing it with the human ear, I really don't think you're going to hear that difference.
Like the covered versus uncovered.
Kind
pickups.
of. Yeah. That's a big rabbit hole subject there.
It is.
We've gone over
Thanks
that.
To Slash.
But
seriously.
the foil is but the foil is so much thinner. It's most of it's paper. You have a very absolute tiny little thin layer of metallic that was stamped. And why are they so sought after? They didn't, they made them years and years ago, and when they were on cheaper guitars, so they would just throw them out. They didn't really think to save it. So that's pretty much why, because there aren't very many of them.
You can thank Ry Cooder for that. That was
too.
his
contribution.
Yeah, I mean, he took things out of the old Tyscos and old Harmonies and things like that, and it's in my personal opinion, I think it's mostly cosmetics.
It is.
And I mean, it's a single coil pickup. I mean,
it's a very thin. So they take a very thin magnet and they put paper flanges on the top and bottom. They put it in a jig and they wind it, and then they wrap the paper around the whole coil and magnet, and they glue it all together, and they put that thin little bobbin basically onto the metal plate. They put the gold foil over that, and then they put the cover on that, and you got a really thin surface mount pickup.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier to install them than, that way than to make routes in the bodies.
Absolutely.
And that's different than the screentopspickups.com.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
It's a lot different.
Yeah. Screen tops are just like your favorite sounding pickup, but with a screen on the top.
Right. At screentopspickups or screentopscom.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's the one.
That's the one. I should know. All right. Here's another one. What are active pickups? Obviously,
Awesome.
there is an active preamp following the pickups, but are the pickups themselves different than regular passive pickups? The great mystery. What's inside an EMG pickup?
Less.
Yes. Go ahead, Jared. I'll let you
A
take
lot
that.
less. So they're wound, probably 75% less than a passive pickup. And all that less is recharged with a 9-volt battery and magical mythical circuitry to make it sound mean. And the advantage of that is you, and I don't really do a lot of this, so I'm somewhat talking out of my butt here, but I would say that there's a lot more advantage.
Do not picture that.
Right. There's I'm going to say advantage again, because you can do whatever. I mean, you can make any circuitry to make that sound however you want, because you basically have barely any character in a pickup and you're adding it via circuitry and battery, rather than a passive pickup where you're just stuck with that pickup the way it is.
Do you think that is there more compression in that? Like, do you get just
I think the compression, if any, would come from the preamp circuit.
Yes,
That's in there.
Yeah.
What's interesting about active pickups is the impedance has changed. So it's a lower impedance pickup
Way lower.
compared to a standard, passive pickup, I guess we'd call it.
Mm-hmm.
And to my ear, I don't know. They always seem either too clean, too brittle. But if you're running it through,
tons of gain,
and tons of pedals,
that could be helpful.
And it gives you a good, clean starting signal, and a strong starting and a constant starting signal.
Yes.
But the disadvantage with using a lot of active pickup, almost every active pickup, is you have to have an onboard preamp circuit.
Mm-hmm.
So there was some Moog boards in the Artisan models of Gibson in the 70s, and you also in the late 70s and early 80s you had and probably still make them the Music Man bass.
Yeah.
So those are some active pickups that people don't really
A lot of bass
realize that
players
are
use active pickups. I mean, those
that
very
are
common
really
in bass.
like those are really active.
Yeah, I mean
And
the early.
it's not just EMGs.
No, I know, but those are synonymous with active.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying.
It's like Kleenex.
But when
It's my show.
when Leo Fender started Music Man, I mean that
Yep.
a lot of those early, even the guitars, had active circuitry and active pickups in them. His own designs.
That's a
Leo.
great story, Tony.
Thank you.
Great question, man.
Yeah,
I'm glad that was
excellent.
brought up.
All right. Let's go to did something just where did all that? Oh, here we go. This is from Brian Robison.
Mr. Robinson.
This is about magnets. Question for Jared. Why do some humbuckers have a screw side and a slug side? Oh, man.
So,
Whoa. Hang on. There's more. What's the purpose and difference in sound? And what would the effect be with 2 screw sides versus 2 slug sides?
and they make them.
And they make them.
Yep. In the beginning of all this humbucker madness, I believe Seth Lover did not want any screw side. He wanted both slugs. And Ted McCarty, I think he was the CEO back then. Ted McCarty of Gibson wanted the screws, and I'm not sure if he wanted to, and I don't know exactly why, but my guess is he wanted to give the customer the option to, slightly change the tone a little bit, adjust. If there was, maybe they wanted the 2 middle string. I don't know. Was there but here's what happens if you screw all your screws out and you have an uneven, height between the two coils, one's obviously going to overpower the other, and it's just going to the pickup will sound brighter and less. It'll just sound less MIDI, less powerful is a better way to say it. If you unscrew your pickup height screws and you can just sloppily move your pickup around and it's plugged in under the strings, if you tilt the pickup back or forward, you will see major tone differences when you do that. And that's actually how the Charlie Christian pickup that I mentioned earlier works. There's actually adjustments where you can just tilt the whole pickup up or down. And there was 2 screws well below that pickup towards the bridge to do that with. So you're changing the shape of the flux field, in which that also changes the tone of the pickup of the guitar. Tony, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to, we had talked about the differences between Filtertrons and humbuckers. Filtertrons have 12 adjustable screw top pull pieces.
Dirty fingers too.
And and so there are some, and there are plenty of other options out there that allow you that adjustment. I don't know that it makes that much difference, but if you did all 12 slugs, I guess you would have a slightly different sound.
If you see old 50s juniors that once in a while, like the pickup, or maybe the neck is warped or something is wrong. Some guys screw the adjustable screws out of those P90s, all closer to the strings.
Oh yeah.
And you'll see that sometimes, and that's just so they get a decent sound.
It's common to do that with a B string. Actually, I've got a Nashville Deluxe Telecaster where in the middle position pickup, which I would never under any circumstance ever in my whole life use.
They do in Nashville.
Yeah, I know. But the pole on the B is, I think it's the pole. I mean, I think it's the B. I'm pretty sure it's the B. Is raised. Mm-hmm. So it's almost twice as high as the other ones.
Right. I think the major difference came about with the unwound G. So a plain G, which becomes much louder because it doesn't have a wrap on the string.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So generally speaking, the G, you would lower the pull piece. Fender started lowering them on their, like on a staggered Strat set and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's to compensate for the loudness of the individual string.
I see. All right. Hello, Sailor Effects.
Hello, Sailor.
Here we go. What is your go-to magnet for a PAF style pickup in both positions? Short/long, a starred weekend degost. Is he speaking Liverpudlian to me? I don't understand this.
No,
Does it matter as much as we all think?
That depends on how degaussed it is. If it's just slightly
what is
ever
degaussed,
so degaussed,
Jared?
that's when the magnet is not at its peak strength. Gauss is, in other words, that's the level of strength that it's at its state, the current state of it. And different grades are meant to hold different numbers of Gauss. And I have a Gauss meter, so I can read the Gauss on a magnet. And
okay, so let's say you have a magnet and it says this should be it. I'm going to make up a number because I don't know.
I'll only go 5.
What? No. If you got a magnet and it says this should be at a rating of 5 Gauss, and you say, well, I'm just going to give it 3. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes. So that's degaussing because you
can reduce the
Tony
power
gave me
of
a
the
bunch
magnet.
of really weird eyebrows like, oh, shut up, Todd.
And it's usually in the 300s anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Degaussing actually reduces the magnetic strength.
Yes, that's where I was.
Yep. And gaussing deuces it.
No,
right.
No, it's duck Gauss.
Okay, so back to his question. What is your go-to magnet for PAF style pickups in both positions?
right in the pocket, it's all Nico 4. That's all Nico 4. It's just right in the pocket.
I had you pegged for a A5.
You know, A5 if they were hot. If they were in the 9, 10, 11 range, and 12 range, I'd go on Nico 5, or, you know, let's go super distortion. That would be, you know, ceramic. But
okay,
but no, on Nico 4 to me it's not near as strong as a 5. Well, it's not supposed to be, but and it's stronger than a 3 and a 2. It's right there. It also depends what kind of guitar you're using. If
you're following a number system.
Yeah. I mean, if they're fully Gaussed, then I would go on Nico 4.
Okay.
So I think a good example about Gauss is to use would be Seymour Duncan Antiquity. You can buy Seymour Duncan Antiquity all Nico 2 Strat, or, you know, Jazzmaster or whatever. And their point is, like, they're simulating old magnets that possibly age, you know, that age and lose some magnetism. Their whole philosophy is, why just go through the painstaking of degaussing a magnet when you can just put a lesser, lower grade magnet with less power and it would just do the same thing? Because the strength of a magnet is what decides how strong that magnet is. Now, are there other little things that may have to do with the grade? Yeah, I think there are. But for the most part, the strength of a magnet is what contributes what the magnet does for the pickup. So, degaussing and gaussing, I don't degauss magnets unless somebody's just really, really.
That sounds like a very specific,
serious. It's a very, very nitpicky kind of thing to degauss magnets, and it's kind of a buzzword out in the pickup world if you're into pickups. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a misconception with that too. So I like to fully gauze all my magnets when I get them.
Okay.
And they will naturally degauss over time.
I think in some cases they do, and in many cases,
yes,
they barely weaken, but in a lot of cases, it's not enough that you can hear a difference.
Okay, sounds good.
But in some cases, maybe. That's a big rabbit hole. So
I think we just climbed out of it. Okay, Jared. Last question.
Yeah.
Give us a sales pitch. Do you have any unique designs you are proud of? We understand that the bulk of your work is repairs and recreations of old pickups. What about non-vintage guitars?
So it's still a vintage guitar, but it's a pickup for a vintage guitar. I'm not the first one to make a noiseless Jazzmaster, but I am the first one to make it as I did. So the noiseless Jazzmasters that I just kind of came out with about 6 months ago, they're the pickup that I'm most proud of, because I figured out how to get a really genuine sounding Jazzmaster sound that's noiseless without totally altering the overall tone, the overall frequency response. So that is it modern? Yeah, it's a modern take on a vintage sound, pretty much.
I think that's
what I'm really proud of.
Yeah, I think the beauty of that pickup, I've got a couple of sets, is it does retain a jazz mastery kind of sound. There's one of the big problems I think you have with whether it's a stacked pickup, as you know, they're like P100s, which were stacked P90s.
Ugh.
They just sound
terrible,
wrong. They don't have the same characteristics. Whereas I think the noiseless Jazzmaster ones that you're making do have,
and the noiseless P90s,
and the noiseless P90s, they have the same tonal, characteristics that the single coil versions do.
Yeah, I mean, that's not easy to do, especially the P90 bridge noiseless. Those are really hard.
Yeah.
And some pickup companies out there, I think Lindy Freyland's,
Yeah,
I think he's kind of the king of the P90. And when it comes to the noiseless P90s, that's him. So a sales pitch for Lindy as well. I mean, he is really good at that technology.
I want the noise, man.
Well, I'll give you the noise all day, baby. One thing that we didn't talk about was charging magnets. Generally, you need a super duper duper strong magnetic field to charge a magnet. And I use a commercial grade magnet charger for that, and a lot of other pickup winders that do it on the weekends, they use neodymium magnets that do a pretty good job, but in my opinion they don't do the full McCoy. But anyway, I
think there's something else I can help plug for you there too, there, Buster. Sure. Which is you've acquired some pretty key pieces of winding equipment.
Oh gosh, yeah. I've got some of the winders that are similar to the Gibson winders. One model is the exact. Another one is
like
a newer version.
Out of the factory?
No, it's not out of the factory, but it was
the same company.
Same company, same model. Same everything, but Gibson has modernized theirs. And what's so awesome about Gibson is that they still use that same winder they've had from the 50s, and that's the Meteor 301. Now the Lasonas are gone. They didn't use those anymore because you only did 3 bobbins at a time, and they took a lot of real estate. John Gundry has one, and Seymour Duncan has one. So, and John Gundry also has the wooden built coil winder, which is really cool. So if you guys want to check out like some old original winders, check out.
You have one. You have a wooden one. You showed me
that. Yeah. Oh, that's an unwinder.
Oh, that's an unwinder.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing too. But
Jared, we didn't stump you, which is probably a good thing. I love that you can talk about these things with great passion and great understanding and great knowledge of the thing that you do so well.
It makes me sound smart on the podcast.
And I love this because I learn so much every single time. I just, my brain is a brim with factual knowledge, and Tony's bladder is a brim with Quattro brewskis.
And it's in his veins.
Thine eyeballs are floating, Tony. Here we go. We're going to get into some good stuff right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard me talk all episode about pickups, and now you're going to hear me sing, Would You Rather? This week's Would You Rather is brought to us by our good old buddy, Uncle Tony Baloney. So, you want to collect old juniors, and the first 2 juniors that you have to choose from.
Les Paul Jr. double cuts.
Gibson Les Paul Jr. double cut with the tortoiseshell pickguard.
That was a lucky guess. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly. So there's 2 in the paper, and one description is 1959 black rare Gibson Jr. yada 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 double cutaway.
Newspaper. The people.
Yeah,
you're looking in the paper.
He's looking at Trading Times.
It's on Craigslist.
It's beat up. Craigslist is beat up. And it's got rash on the back. It's, got all the wears and looks awesome. And it's solid. There's no cracks, breaks, or anything like that. Or the next listing you see is for a 1960, same color, pretty much the same everything, except it's had a headstock repair. But it's in pristine condition otherwise. Mm-hmm. It's been sitting under the the bed on, upstairs in grandma's bedroom. And one day, one of the kids got it out and dropped it, and it broke. And then they had to get it repaired
or looked at it.
Yes, they just looked at it.
So, which one are you going to take? Because you can only afford one.
All right.
All right. So what you're telling me, Jared, is we can have a 1959. Both of these are rare black.
Mega super rare.
Double cuts. One is
you assume it was refinished when you saw it.
Yeah, I assumed that. But after reading the article in Vintage Guitar Magazine, I realized that it could be a factory finish.
Yep.
So the 59 is pretty beat up. Rough around the edges, but no breaks.
Been played.
And then the other is a 1960, same model and everything, except it has had a headstock repair.
That's it. But everything else
is
minty.
super clean condition.
Minty clean, except for the repair.
Yeah.
All right, Tony.
Well, so two things. Generally speaking, every old guitar that I've picked up that is a little bit rough and worn out is usually a pretty good indicator of someone has loved and played that instrument, which usually means it sounded pretty good and, is an excellent instrument. Some of the vintage instruments that, in this case may have had a headstock repair, which isn't the end of the world if it's done right and it's solid. But if it has no wear and tear on it, it's almost as if it was, as we would call it, a wall hanger. And, I think it was in a Wilco book that if a guitar that isn't played starts to think it's a piece of furniture. And I think that, I think any day of the week, assuming that everything is clean and original and playable and sounds good, I'm going to go with the more beat up one because I think that is a good indicator of the quality of the instrument. So I'm going with the beat up 59.
All right.
Yep.
Jared?
Yeah, pretty much the same thought process Tony has, but maybe I can elaborate a little differently.
Go ahead. Give it your best.
Yeah, it's going to be the same idea pretty much, but I think the same way. I mean, I don't know if you guitar guys out there have ever gotten your hands on a real old vintage guitar that's got a lot of wear on it. They feel really good. They feel so comfortable. They feel worn in. When you slide your hand up and down the neck, the finish is worn off, but it feels super silky smooth. Whereas a guitar that has all the finish on it that hasn't been played much feels a little more pointy and jaggedy, and there's no wear, and the finish is sticky because I don't know. That could be number one. It was just never loved and played because a guy bought it and he never learned how to play it, and then he died of a car accident. I know that was kind of specific.
That was macabre too.
Yeah. And so the guitar sat under the bed for 30, 40 years and then got broken.
Maybe he saw one and was really scared, and that was why.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to go with the beat up. I would just kind of gravitate towards that anyhow.
Yeah.
Because I pretty much know what to expect with the old beat up, used, loved guitars. Mm-hmm. Those are the best.
I'm going to go the same route with the added bonus of the idea of having a guitar that old that's worth that much. Like, why on earth would I choose one that has had a headstock repair, even if it was done by the best headstock repair guy on the planet? No matter what, that's always going to be a cause for speculation for a guitar of that vintage. I would assume when I say no matter what, that is my limited knowledge of, that kind of thing.
Well, wait,
that's fair enough.
Does it come with the original case?
Ooh.
Screw the case.
That case is probably worth more than my car.
Who cares?
Legitimately.
Maybe.
If it's worn in, you're going to play it all the time.
Yeah, but I want to, there's not even a question for me.
Okay.
All right. So we just wanted to all want that guitar. That's what that Would You Rather was about.
Pretty much.
Alrighty. Tony?
Yes?
How about we thank some people?
I would like to thank some people. At this point of the show, we like to thank our executive producers. Now, you might be sitting there saying, what's an executive producer? And more importantly, how do I become one? Here's what you do, folks. Head over to patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs and check out a couple of different levels in which you can participate, become a sponsor, a patron of this very podcast.
To get these kind of episodes. This is like a 2-hour episode for Pete's sake.
Yeah, we're worn out. But the top of the heap, I guess you would call them that, the level that we love the most.
Can I do it? King of the hill, top of the heap, a number one.
Lovely.
That was nice. Wow. How about that? I didn't know you were doing the Sinatra thing then.
I don't know if I did it right.
Yeah, you did it pretty close.
Okay.
Our executive producers get a great bevy of thank you gifts. All of these participants. There's things like barefoot buttons and keychains and T-shirts and stickers and picks and all the good stuff. But Jared, the executive producers get what else?
Well, they get their name read on the thing.
Their name read on the thing. That's what I'm going to do right now. So special thanks to these executive producers, Mr. Tom Barazin, Martin Cliff, John Daly, Chris Kearney, Darren Gregory, Doug Christ, Michael Van Zant, Ken Sayers, Brian Robison, Michael Senchuk, Stefan Lamb, Johnny Knowles, Anthony Lathrop. I made that mistake myself. It's Anthony Lathrop.
Lathrop.
Nice one, Tony.
Sorry, I couldn't blame Todd for that. John Anglin, Tyler Bray, Brad Partridge, Chris Heidel, John Esterle, Doug Gann, Justin Jones, Brett Alexander, James White, Matt Hart, Bill Gula Guitars, Richard Kendall, Tig Harmon, John Williams, John Jackson, Jason Roush, David Rando, Douglas King, Gary Cooper, Rob Saxby, Mark Garton, Elad Mizrahi, and Mike D.
Excellent.
Hey, wait, Todd.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Because there's another group of executive producers. These are the guys that hang out up on the penthouse suite. These are our grand poobahs. And this week, we have an upgrade from an executive producer to grand poobah. So welcome aboard, James Pennington, Tyler Rhines, Tim Novak. Sorry, Tim.
Kim Novak. Holy moly.
Sorry about that. Steve Keys, Adam Johnson, Tommy Manasco, Sean S., Cody Foster, Science of Sound, David Kamingo, Corey Nigro, Jonathan Jerusik. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you so much for your support, one and all. All right, everybody. Tony, where can people find you?
Let's just see. You need a special pick guard, changing pickups out. Go over to pickguardian.com. Check out some of the wares I have for sale. Mm-hmm. But by and large, what I do is custom work. So shoot me an email. Let me know what you need, what you're looking for in terms of colors and all that fun stuff. And I will take good care of you.
Excellent. Jared?
Surprise, I do pickups. So if you need some new pickups, we do those. Some vintage pickups and even vintage looking like they're old. We do those too. We do rewinds, home of the Noiseless Jazz Master. And watch my little show, the Rewind Time with Brandonwound Pickups. Got to get more episodes out, I know. Jared at BrandonwoundPickups.com. Yes, it's been busy, my friend.
All right. You can shoot me an email, Todd at theguitarknobs.com. You can DM me on Instagram at guitarknobs. And you can also watch our show, or rather listen. You can watch our faces not move, but you can hear our mouths move on YouTube. We do have all of our episodes there as well. thank you all for listening to this super long, super awesome. I think it was awesome. I learned a ton, and it was really fun episode. That was just a weird run-on sentence.
How about
we are tired.
How about we give a special thanks to Jared for giving us all this information?
No.
Okay. All right.
Well, hell, Tony helped a lot. Thank you, Tony Baloney.
Jared, thank you for sharing so much with all the listeners out there.
And thank you, listeners, for the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a lot to add on to a very busy day for a single guy building stuff.
Especially Gary.
Yeah, holy moly.
Like 7 or 8 of them.
I think I'm gonna have to contact him. Maybe get him a little something.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, everybody, have a fantastic guitar weekend. Subscribe. I love a parade.
Hi, Jared.
Hello, my friend. If I don't approve, there's going to be some changes.
I'm gonna take a break right there. Tony's down 3 quarts.
3 quarts?
Well, he's up 3 quarts, I should say.
One toke over the line, sweet Jesus. One toke over the line. Derailed.
Lou, you think you should rethink that, Tony?
At least you care about one of us not sounding like a moron. Magnets. I'm really burnt out.
We're almost done, Jared. Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.